What's up, guys? Matt Moda here to give you my favorite NFL player prop picks. We're talking Monday Night Football, Cardinals versus Cowboys. I'm just going to have one player that we are backing for Monday Night Football. Just going to take one ladder play. We did that for Thursday night, and it worked out. We did it the Monday night previously, and that worked out, so hopefully that works out tonight as well. I am recording this before Sunday Night Football has even started, so this is kind of going out before then. So I don't have a full recap from Week 9 to give you guys. Right now, we just have Thursday Night Football, which I mentioned was fine. We were able to get Devon Achane 6+ receptions at plus 140. Really wanted that 7+ number. He had it called back, but that's okay. Up less than a unit, 0.9 units is good. Still working our way back to getting into the green on the year. We'll see how Sunday goes, waiting to recap until it's over. And then we have, obviously, Monday Night Football tonight. And I'm just going to I'll give you guys some leads as well, I should say that. And we'll just get into it. I'm just going to go ahead and back the guy that you see on the screen here, Mr. CeeDee Lamb. I'm taking him 90+. 100+ receiving yards. Now his mainline prop, 80.5, you can get at Caesars. You see it's 84.5 up to ESPN Bet, 82.5 at FanDuel. I'm taking 90 and 100+. You look at the games. Honestly, I was debating going up to 110+ as well, and I still might do that, but we'll see. So you look at CeeDee Lamb this year. He's played 4 games. You take out the game in which he got hurt. He played 9% of the snaps. Obviously, you can't take any meaningful data from that. So you take that game out. He's gone 110+ receiving yards in his first 3 games before missing it last week. But you look at last week's game, it was against the Broncos. Very, very, very tough defense. Didn't have a bad game. Still had 74 receiving yards. Still had 10 targets, 7 receptions. Still had fantastic volume last week. He just couldn't really get much going down the field. And if you watch that game, it was the Broncos' pressure that kind of did in the Cowboys' offense. The Cowboys' offense has been fantastic this season. It was really even against they played the Packers, who also do a good job bringing pressure, and they dropped 40 on them. But for that last week, it was really that issue, the pressure against the Broncos. Well, guess what? They're going up against the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals have the 3rd worst pressure rate in the entire NFL. We're looking at pressure. This is per FTN. 23% of the time they bring pressure. Again, that's the 3rd lowest in the entire NFL. When you want to look at who's number 1, guess what? Denver, 37% of the time. It's a night and day difference between these 2 teams in terms of pressure. And I think that's going to help CeeDee Lamb a lot. Now, I'll admit, I think both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens could go off. Honestly, if you wanted to ladder both of them, they could both get 100 yards. It would not be shocking at all if they both got 100 yards. I think CeeDee Lamb is safer, obviously. I also like the matchup for him a little bit better. The Cardinals defense isn't terrible. You kind of look at their matchup. In terms of they're middle of the pack in terms of receiving yards allowed to the receiver lined out wide. The good news is CeeDee Lamb lines up a ton in the slot, so they do kind of mix him up in the slot. At the beginning of the year, they gave up 100 receiving yards, a ton of receiving yards, 100 to Tet, 117 to Ricky Pearsall, 79 to JSN, which is the lowest he's had all year, only had 5 targets. Weird game for him. But Calvin Ridley, 2 Colts receivers went off against them. Dobbs had 72 last week. The biggest thing in favor of CeeDee Lamb is his splits versus zone compared to the rest of the team. So everybody plays more zone, right? The Cardinals still play it at a much higher rate than most NFL teams. 78% of the time. This is over the last month. For the NFL, I like to look at the last month because stuff that happened week 1 isn't always relevant. And I do know the Cardinals had a bunch of cornerback injuries at the beginning of the year, so their defense maybe is a little bit different. But they are a zone, play deep, keep everything in front of you type of defense. And as you can see, 78% of the time they play zone coverage, which is the 8th highest in the NFL. If you were to look at the entire year, I did that, it's 75%. So they're slightly above, but nothing crazy. And they also play 2 high safety, middle of the field open rate, which you didn't really know what that means. It's just 2 safeties deep, keeping everything in front of them, not letting themselves get beat over the top is the goal for this defense. And they play that about 57% of the time, which is, again, the 8th highest in the NFL. Well, you want to know why both of those stats are relevant? Let's look at CeeDee Lamb. So this is against zone coverage. This is per fantasy points. Very, very helpful tool. I use them for like nerdy advanced analytics. You see I'm filtering for zone coverage, right? I have zone selected. That's what we're looking at here. And CeeDee Lamb, obviously he's going to lead the Cowboys, obviously. But it's the gap in which he leads the Cowboys that I think is really, really relevant. His yards per route run, 2.78 against zone coverage. The next closest player on the Cowboys is George Pickens at 1.63. That's a huge, huge difference. You want to look at targets per route run. How frequently is he being targeted? You take out these first two because it's a tight end that's ran 3% of the routes, and Miles Sanders, who's out for the year. They're not relevant. CeeDee Lamb, 25% target rate against zone coverage. That's good. Honestly, like JSN is his target rate's at like 37%. So Dak does spread the ball around, but 25% still pretty aggressively leads the team. Jake Ferguson is the closest at 21%. And then there's a bunch of guys bundled up like Javonte Williams at 20%, George Pickens at 16%. But these two numbers scream CeeDee Lamb over George Pickens. Now, there are also some arguments you can make in favor of George Pickens, so it's not all good for CeeDee Lamb, but in my opinion, the most important ones. And then the other thing I want to mention was the too high coverage, right? I mentioned that the Cardinals also do that. So we're going to look at too high open coverage in the middle of the field, and we're going to kind of show you the same thing for CeeDee Lamb. Now, his targets are not as good. They still lead the team, taking out Miles Sanders, but it's a closer target rate, 23% to 21%, but it's still a pretty aggressive yards per route run difference. He's at about 2.5. George Pickens is the closest at about 2. And then Ferguson is pretty far below him with a 20% target rate. Another thing I should have mentioned, which I forgot, we're only looking at games in which CeeDee Lamb has played in. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. So CeeDee Lamb, as I mentioned, he got hurt in week 3, didn't play 4, 5, and 6, played 7 and 8. It's not relevant looking at data in which he didn't play because obviously everything's going to be different. So that is something that is important to note. But a 2.5 yards per route run against too high, the 2.78 yards per route run against zone, that's not incredible. Like if you just want to compare that, you want to compare that league wide. So we'll look at especially the zone because that's the most important thing because obviously zone coverage 60 or 78% of the time. We're looking at zone coverage and we'll go ahead and look at every single team. And we also want to look at the entire year just so we're not filtering those specific games because for CeeDee Lamb, I wanted to look at in reference to the Cowboys, but you look at the yards per route run and stuff on the entire year against zone coverage for everybody, just to kind of compare the number for CeeDee Lamb. It's not incredible. I will admit, not incredible league-wide, but it is still pretty good. But just to compare, like Jackson Smith and Jigba, 41 receptions, 4.82. That's fantastic. Rishi Rice, now finally playing meaningful snaps, 4.07. That's fantastic. You want to go down to guys that are a little bit more relevant, Puka, Drake London, even Gadsden as the tight end. They're all still higher than CeeDee Lamb, who's down here closer to still good receivers like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. He's down here at 2.69. So it's not, league-wide, it's not terrible, but it by far leads the Cowboys, which is kind of what I'm trying to show you here. The only thing that's in favor of George Pickens is he's got better stats against cover 4. And while the Cardinals do run cover 4 a decent amount, it's still 25% of the time, like 75% of the time, they'll be in a different coverage. And that coverage is what more benefits CeeDee Lamb. So that's why I am on CeeDee Lamb over George Pickens. I think they're both really good. In terms of leans, I was really, really close to also taking Marvin Harrison. The matchup against the Cowboys is as good as it gets. I mean, they're the worst defense in zone, second worst. Let me be respectful. Second worst defense in zone coverage, worst defense in man coverage. But I mean, the most yards Marvin Harrison has had is 98. I think if his name wasn't Marvin Harrison Jr. and he wasn't drafted 4th overall, I think this number wouldn't be at 59.5. I mean, the matchup is pretty good, but still, he's only gone over this number in 3 of 7 games, and only 4 of 7 games has he hit what his over-under was priced at. I was debating going with Trey McBride, but he just had a game with 8 and 10 receptions. Eventually, that stuff's going to start going around to the other receivers, which could be Marv, but I don't really quite see the value there. To me, it made the most sense to just rock with CeeDee Lamb and take him up to 100 and hope that he has a good game. So that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe. Looking at CeeDee Lamb, 90, 100+ receiving yards. And then if you want leans, again, I don't think a George Pickens ladder is that crazy either. If you just want to ladder both of them, I do like the Cowboys because they have pretty consolidated targets between CeeDee, Pickens, and Jake Ferguson. You kind of know it's going to be those 3 guys. Ferguson's more of a receptions guy. He's very close to the line of scrimmage, whereas CeeDee and Pickens are more of like the deeper A-dot kind of guys, which is why I think yards for CeeDee and Pickens make sense, whereas it would be receptions for Ferguson. But again, I'm only tracking what I officially give out, even as good as the leans or bad as they are. So we're just rocking with CeeDee Lamb. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good one.